Hello again, it's Crystal Williams. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you died without a will? So if that's one of your questions, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So if you die without a will, you die intestate. Each state has their own law that takes over if a deceased person dies without a will. So since I'm licensed to practice law in Louisiana, let's take a look at a few examples of what would happen if a deceased person dies without a will under Louisiana law. So example number one, let's say Mary dies and she leaves behind 2 children. She didn't have a spouse, so she wasn't married at the time of her death, and Mary's parents and her siblings all died before her. So in this case, her 2 children would each inherit 1/2 of Mary's assets. Just that if Mary dies with no one else but her children, they get to split the assets. That is what the court would rule under Louisiana law. So let's go for another example. Let's say John dies without children but leaves behind a widow. John's parents and his siblings all died before him. So in this case, the spouse would inherit everything that John has. It's pretty, so he dies with no one else but his spouse. His spouse will get everything that he owns without a will. All right, so our last example is, let's say Lisa dies. She leaves behind a spouse. Her parents died before her, but she leaves behind 2 siblings. So in this case, the property is actually split. The spouse will inherit all community property, which is in Louisiana, the assets that were acquired during the couple's marriage. And then the siblings, each of the siblings would get 1/2 share of the separate property. So anything that didn't belong to the community property, the siblings would get to split. So I hope those scenarios were pretty illustrative of what would happen if someone was to die without a will. And the thing is with this is if someone dies without a will, these scenarios will never change. The law will dictate exactly who gets what if a will is not in existence at the time of a deceased person's death. So if you don't have a will, you absolutely have no control, or if you die without a will, you absolutely have no control over who gets your assets. You won't be able to give more to your children or more to your spouse or however more to your parents. It'll simply be divided based upon the law of the state where you die. And in this case, we were specifically referring to Louisiana law. So the only way to have the control that you probably want of who gets your assets upon your death is to draft a will. So that's it. Leave your comments below as always. And if you would like to receive notification of when we post new video content here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.